Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. We are so excited to be here with Tina Wankey again to talk more about all the work she does and, of course, how she's helping so many people. And Roots of Healing is the name of the company. And we're joined again by her. Thank you. Would you mind just telling us a little bit about the work you're doing? And I know overall it's about really reclaiming that power over your health.
Yes, that is my main goal, to help people do that. So what I do is I have a background as a therapist, and I'm also a wellness coach. So I look at what's happening with the mind and how we need to address it, because the mind's connected to the body.
Yeah.
So head's not disconnected. So we look at the whole person to see what can be a benefit. So it might be, doing some of that talk therapy. It might be some hypnotherapy. It might be looking at nutrition, looking at what you're eating and how that might be impacting your mood, how you're feeling, how it's impacting your health issues. And then also looking at the energetic side of things and looking at how tuning forks can help you, Reiki, things of that nature, singing bowls, all of those things. So it just depends on the person and what they need as to what we decide to go forward with for their sessions.
Beautiful. And for today, we're talking a little bit about a missing link to gaining your energy back, right? So you say there
Yes.
are many ways people seek out to gain energy in their lives. Could you talk
Yes.
about some of those traditional ways and,
Yeah.
the benefits of that?
Yeah. So we talked about in the last podcast about energy, but this is a different look at energy and what might be missing. So we have a lot of those common ways that we can look at energy, like what is your exercise like? Are you sleeping? How well are you sleeping? Are you overdoing it? Do you have too many things on your plate and you're stressing yourself out, depleting your body, and not getting the rest that you need to get? So we want to look at what's draining your energy, and then how are you trying to get that energy back? Are you, using caffeine, energy drinks, certain foods to kind of give you that burst, like have some carbs so you kind of get that initial burst, but then you always can have a crash from those carbs or from the caffeine, from those enhancement products that you might be taking. So we want to take and look at a different form of energy, a different way to get energy back in your body.
All right. And you mentioned what's the missing link? I don't
Yeah.
want to, yeah, you could
Okay.
share it. I don't want to break the news.
Right. So the missing link to energy is actually vibration. So what has been found is that there's over 6,000 studies around subtle energy and biofield healing that have been done to show how we have this energy field around us and how it impacts us, how it holds our emotions, how it holds things that have happened to us that have had an impact on us, trauma, and all of those things. And it's all about the frequency, it's about those vibrations that are happening. So when you look at your cells, you can look at solid surfaces, you can look at water, you can look at trees, you can look at solid objects and you can see them. But like if you look at air, you don't necessarily see air. But air vibrates. The cells are moving in the air. All of those things, there's always vibration that's happening, because that's how the cells are working, communicating. And in our body and around our body, there's what's called biophotons.
Oh,
So biophotons.
I was gonna say, what are they? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So biophotons are how communication occurs between cells. So it's like an electromagnetic frequency that's happening. There's signals being sent. So when you think about like when you've seen in like science class, when you're studying cells and how they work and seeing them underneath the microscope, you can see things moving all the time. So biophotons have like a magnetic charge to them, where they are sending that communication through the different cells. And when things are communicating very well, things are flowing and they're doing what they're supposed to do. There's a good like ebb and flow. The river's flowing the way it needs to.
Mm-hmm.
But then when there's a um, lack of coherence, like there's disharmony, where now you have this traumatic event that's happened, or you're really stuck in that statement that your
Yeah.
friend told you or a
Mm-hmm.
coworker, then all of a sudden those cells are not vibrating the way they need to, and they're not sending the right communication out because now there's like a disharmony. So it's not connecting the way it needs to. So it's just like you have kind of like a ball of energy, if you want to
Mm-hmm.
think about it that way. And it's just distorted in how it's firing and how it's looking. It's not looking like a smooth ball. There isn't just that good flow of energy that's happening. So what happens is, if you think about it like an orchestra, this might be a good example. So when you have an orchestra, everybody is playing together, they're in harmony, everything sounds good. But if you end up having someone who is off tune, who is out of sync, you're going to notice it.
Yeah.
So it's like having that one person in the orchestra
Yeah.
who's
Just
off
a
key,
little
and
off.
you just notice it. It just is like, oh, that does not sound good. It doesn't have that harmony and that flow. So in the body and around the body, in this whole energetic field that we have, we want things to be as harmonious as possible. Now, obviously, we have things that happen in our lives, so it can create that disruption, that disharmony. But then we want to work to always doing our best to get our body in harmony, getting the whole orchestra going and on the same page, on the same note, in tune, all of those things.
Mm, interesting. Thank you for that. All right. And then also, I know we have a lot of notes to get through
Mhm.
talking about, helping gaining our energy back if you are just tuning in. What other things that you want to make sure we share? I mean, there's a lot to
Yeah.
the notes
Oh,
and
yeah.
we've kind of been just
I
been
know.
rolling. So what's next?
Yeah. Okay. So, with this idea of this harmony, when things are in coherence and when there's just the orchestra is playing all together and in tune and jiving together, then we actually conserve energy. When
Okay.
we have these disruptions and there
Yeah.
ends up, being a disruption here, there, all these different disruptions that creates that incoherency, and it's like wasted energy because you actually lose some of that energy is just kind of get misfired. So you're not using it the best that you can. So by
Yeah.
getting that energy in and as harmonious as possible, it's going to allow you to have more energy to do the things that you want to do in your everyday life. So when we look at it, those emotions that happen, emotions can either uplift us or they can hinder us. And so they cause coherence or they cause incoherence.
Yep.
And they leave, like I said, they leave those imprints in our body and around our body. So we want to take and even we want to take and look at, where are we holding our emotions? There's different parts of the body where we can be holding emotions. So, like in our hips. So that can be undigested emotions and dysfunctional patterns of thought and behavior. So if you think about, do you have troubles with your left hip or your right hip? You know, um,
Hmm.
if you have issues there, like right hip can be like compulsive overdoing, where you're constantly thinking and feeling like you got to go, 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 go. Um, and then your left hip can be about those stories of feeling
Oh.
powerless,
Hmm.
feeling, a sense of blame.
Ah,
And so, like, I've shared this in a past podcast, but I had stage 0 melanoma removed from my left
yeah.
hip.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that was a sense of feeling like powerless, like I can't get to where I want to go, like just feeling stuck and frustrated, amongst other things. So if we take and look at where things land,
Mm-hmm.
then we can see, like if there's distorted energy in an area, every time I say, so this is where I'm sensing something. And in this area, it means, that you feel victimized or you feel blame or
Yep.
guilt. Does that resonate? every
Mm-hmm.
time people are like, yes, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. So if we look at if we look at the field, there's just so many different things that are in there about how we can get stuck in the past, not moving forward. Feet,
Mm-hmm.
feet are a good one. And it's always funny, knees and feet. I whenever I'm doing sessions, I always get like this stuck feeling or wanting to go forward
Yep.
that happens with clients. And it always resonates with them about something in their life that's going on, about them feeling pulled back, not being able to move forward. So just so very interesting.
So it's something holding us back. It's that being
Yeah.
stuck in a
Yep.
sense.
Yeah.
And there's also goes back though to our ancestors. You talk about how it's not just
Yes.
us. Could you share about that energetic
Yeah.
field and how that, yeah.
Yeah. So our ancestors, it's so interesting because what happens is like when we're born, we have this DNA, we have these genetics, and they can influence our bodies, influence our health, even our mental state. But what also can happen, just like how we get our DNA from our parents, we can actually get imprints of
Mm-hmm.
things that ancestors have experienced, and it can get passed down the line. So if you think about, like, it could be like in your own family, or it could be in someone that and it just seems like this family always seems to have this issue. It always seems to happen. Or you can think, in your own self, like, it just seems like everybody has this struggle, that just seems to go back generations and generations. And it might be because that imprint is there. And that imprint can be in a couple different areas of the body. And I just had a session with someone with tuning forks where the ancestral stuff, like literally what her issues were, I'm like, this is ancestral stuff. This isn't, you came into this world with us. And what she said was, she said, there's one side of her family that she didn't know much about because her parent wouldn't talk about it. So she's like, she's like, I know there's something on that side that I'm unaware of. So it made sense to her when
Mm-hmm.
we talked about what the issues were and everything and what she was experiencing. So we got to think about like the energy that we have. We might get almost like these imprints that are in us
Mm-hmm.
that might be distorting our field. So we
Yeah.
have to also take that into consideration. So when we look at it, so when we're looking at what is happening when we have these disruptions that are happening, we need to look at it both within ourselves, within our own life, of things that have been happening. And then we also need to be aware that there might be things ancestral that may have been passed down to us, that might have been imprinted within each generation and
Yeah.
passed down. And those things we can't be aware of until we're made aware of them.
Interesting. Gosh. And then it's amazing. You can actually get rid of that, right? I
Yeah.
mean, because
Yep.
you feel like it's been going on and on and on and on. How long of a process is this, you know?
It each person varies because you got to think about how much stuff
Mm-hmm.
a person has gone through in a lifetime. And then if there's ancestral stuff that might be coming in there. So one person could just focus on one issue. Like we go in with an intention about what we're focusing on. And in one session, they might feel some clearing that's happening. Typically for people, like 3 sessions can be is the most beneficial. And then some people just want to keep going because they're just like, let's just keep clearing this stuff up and getting this stuff out. And life happens too. So there might be those things that are happening that they want to get cleared up as life is happening.
Got it. All right. Well, remind us how we can reach out to you, Tina.
Yes, you can go to my website at rootsofhealing.org. And there's a form on the bottom of the page that you can fill out if you want to contact me. Otherwise, you can contact me via my phone, 920-277-6738.
All right. Did you want to obviously share more about the biofield tuning and the tuning
Yes.
forks and all
Yeah.
the benefits of it?
Yeah. So the founder of biofield tuning, she created this whole process that I go through with clients. And she has done thousands of hours of like just clinical experience on top of all the research that she did. She has 2 books that she's written. She has Electric Body, Electric Health, and then she has Tuning the Biofield. And those have been just provide so much information and research that she's done. I mean, she was a science-based person. So when she started doing this,
Mhm.
she wanted to see the science behind it. She wanted to see she wanted to see proof about how this works, why it works. So she spent a lot of time.
Yeah.
And through her discoveries, she was finding out about the biophotons. She was finding out about these different areas in the body, the
Okay.
ancestral stuff and everything. And so as she discovered that, she started fine tuning her protocol and everything in the process of it.
So,
So when we go through this process, it's different than I've seen in any other tuning fork training because you do go through all these steps to energetically get the body going to start. And then you're checking the body to see where it needs to be, where the corrections need to be. And then you're going through the biofield that you have, like 5 to 6 feet out to the left and the right, depending on what side of the body we're going to work on. And when you go all the way out to about 5, 6 feet out, you're starting out like at the ancestral, and then it's conception, and then it's birth, and then it goes as it gets closer to your body, it gets closer to your age. And there's also what are called ancestral rivers that flow on both sides of us. So I've had some interesting things pop up in these rivers that are flowing, with some not so happy people that are floating down this river, really angry and everything. And we've been able to get those cleared out with the tuning forks. So when we do this, like when we're going through these things, I'm taking the tuning fork and the vibration that happens with the tuning fork, the biophotons that I mentioned. So those, it's like with the tuning fork, it's like a magnet, and it's kind of collecting those biophotons. So like filaments, if you want to think about it like that, like we're collecting them along and taking them to the center of the body. So we can take that energy that's distorted, that's in disharmony, and we're going to return it to the body so the body can recycle it and actually use it
mhm.
in a better way. So we don't ever want to like get rid of the energy. What we want to do is recycle it so we're using it in a better way. So as we go along, we're picking up like ages and events and things that have happened
Mhm.
as we're going through that biofield. And first, we go through it, and I will bring up like, okay, this is the age that I'm at. Was there
Yeah.
something that happened? There might be something that I sense, and I just ask them if it means anything. And we just kind of go along the process, clearing the energy out and just getting it to be more smooth so there's more harmony. So the orchestra is sounding good.
Do. I don't
Right.
play violin, but I'm thinking, yeah, you're right. That was a
Right.
great analogy before when you said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
One band member being off. Yes.
Yep. And yeah, and it can stick out. It can stick out. So then if you imagine having these out of tune players happening throughout your whole body, and then just how distorted that can sound and how unpleasant it can sound. So when you think about it that way, then try to imagine how your body's feeling with it. That it has all these uncomfortable tones that are happening that should not be happening because they're not in harmony. So it can be just something to think about, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling off, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling like you're constantly repeating a pattern, constantly repeating it, like, why can I not get over this? Why do I feel like I'm always stuck in the same cycle? There might be something else you need to look at in order to get that cleared out. So we talked about different ways for energy in the last podcast, but this one is about our energy within our body and around our body and how we can clear it out. Because our emotions, they mess with us. They really do. And they can just trip us up. They can prevent us from doing amazing things that we want to do. We can miss opportunities because we're fearful, because we just don't want to do them. And then we might never step outside of that box that we want to step outside of because things are holding us back. If I would have stayed in my box, I would have been staying in the medical system, and I wouldn't have been adding anything to help people, because additional to what I was doing, because it would have been seen as outside the box. But he decided, like, that was such a nerve-wracking leap of faith that I took when I went from, guaranteed, paycheck to now this is, I'm doing this all on my own. It was very nerve-wracking, but I decided I wanted to do that because I wanted to implement these additional tools that I've had. And I've just kept adding them because I've seen how they've helped. And I want to make sure people can get the help and not stay stuck, because that's such a frustrating feeling when we're feeling stuck all the time and we're just like, I don't know what to do. I can't move forward. This keeps happening. I keep getting stuck in my anxiety, or I keep getting stuck in the depression. So this is another tool that can help you get that energy back so that you can feel that orchestra within you playing together in tune, so you can feel more alive and you can do all those things you want to do, whether it's big or small. But when you have the energy to do it and your whole body's in tune with that, it's a completely different game in the world.
Thank you for sharing all this. Always insightful, learning, new stuff. Every week we speak, which is a good thing. And
Mhm.
just to remind everyone, if they want to reach out, you offer an initial consultation, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. If they want to talk about what they want to address to see what's the best fit, totally, we can do that initial consultation to find out more.
Got it. And you offer, we talked obviously about the tuning forks, but also the energy healing, the Reiki. There's wellness coaching,
Yes.
hypnotherapy. You offer
Yes.
many services. What else?
Yes. Yeah. Well, there's a traditional therapy, but they're
hmm
all typically focused and connected to that emotional, mental health aspect.
Got it. All right. Well, we still have 3 minutes left in your show. What else did you want to make sure that
Yeah.
we should cover for today?
Oh, yes. So, okay. So when it comes to, okay, like we can do like being able to do tuning fork sessions, being able to
hmm
clear out that field around us, feel clear out our bodies, anything that's feeling stuck. We also have to remember we still have to address our emotions as they happen, because when we stuff them down and we don't address them, like people tell us to suck it up, you're better than that, stop dwelling on
hmm
that. When people tell us that we need to just deal with it, and then that's just how we live, we're just stuffing things down. And what happens is eventually our
Yeah.
body is going to start screaming at us.
hmm
And one of the quotes from Eileen McCusick is the founder of biofield tuning. And she said, disease is often the body's last resort to making emotions heard.
hmm
So when you're dealing with a health issue, maybe there's something emotionally that might be fueling it. So we need to address our emotions. So instead of stuffing them down, and allowing them to show up in pains, aches, digestive upset, whatever it may be, we want to make sure we're addressing our emotions. One little trick is, instead of saying I am anxious, just saying, or I have anxiety, saying I'm saying that wrong. Let me correct that. I'll use angry. Instead of saying I'm angry, instead it's like I am having anger, or I'm having anxiety. So I'm anxious, I'm having anxiety. So you're taking and removing it. So you're not putting it within you, you're separating it from you. So changing that way you're thinking about it, instead of saying I'm diabetic, it can be I have diabetes. So changing that wording around can make a difference. And when you have emotions that are coming up, address them, just notice them, acknowledge that they're there because they're there for a reason, and then deal with them. Don't stuff them down, because that's going to allow you to have less built up emotions happening within you.
Got it. Well, thank you for sharing all this. How can we reach out to you, please?
You can reach out to me at rootsofhealing.org. And you can also call me on my cell phone, 920-277-6738.
All right. Thank you so much. Looking forward to next week. I'm sure.
Yes.
Are we back again?
Yes, next weekend.
Awesome. Thank you again. Always appreciate it. Very detailed and love that. Thank you. It makes it flow. Thank you for everything. Have a great day, Tina.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.